Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of The Conversation. And today I got a pretty interesting topic for you guys. And the topic is, can we possibly see a finals rematch between Kawhi Leonard and Giannis Antetokounmpo in the playoffs this year? So that's what I want to get into. But before we get into that, I want you guys to go ahead and hit the like button if you haven't already, and hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So please make sure you go ahead and do that. Now, let's get straight into the content. Now, we know that the season is definitely going to happen and everything is resuming on July 30th, and that's when we're going to start seeing some games. And given that the NBA has sort of released a tentative schedule, but we kind of know what it is. And I think the regular season starts in the end of July. Then I think the playoffs begin towards the end of September, if I'm not sure. But they're going to have they're going to have what they call the play-in tournament. So after that's done, I think that's done to decide all of the seeding. So once we know all the seeds going into the playoffs, then we'll get a better picture of the playoff picture moving forward. But if we look at the current standings in the league before this, let's say, pause in games, in the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks were leading the conference. In fact, they had the best record in the entire NBA with a 53-12 record. Then of course behind them is the Toronto Raptors with a 46-18 record. Then you have the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, the Indiana Pacers at the 5th seed. Then you have the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets with the Orlando Magic coming in at the 8th seed. Now, it's fair to say that in the Eastern Conference, given that there's some wiggle room between, let's say, the 4 and 6 seed, that's Philadelphia, Indiana, Miami, the seeding may change, and even the Brooklyn Nets may fall out. The Washington Wizards may get in, whoever it is. So the Milwaukee Bucks could probably end up playing either the Magic, the Nets, or the Washington Wizards, depending on how things pan out. I think it's going to be a long shot for the Wizards to make it in because they have a 24-40 record, and the other two teams ahead of them have 30 wins each. So I think it's probably going to come down to the Orlando Magic or the Brooklyn Nets, and that's who the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be facing to start the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. If we look over in the Western Conference, then of course you have the Lakers at the number 1 seed. They maintain that seed, and I think they're going to finish off the season with the number 1 seed with a 49-14 record. Then behind them, we have the Clippers, and then things get interesting as we look further in the bottom of the Western Conference, because you have the Memphis Grizzlies, who currently hold the 8th seed. Then you have the Portland Trail Blazers, who are trying to play at the 9th seed, so to speak. And then you have the New Orleans Pelicans, who are also there. So I think there could be some movement there. But this is pretty much, even all throughout the Western Conference, a lot of possible movement between the 2 all the way down to the 7th seed, because there's only 4 games that separates the Dallas Mavericks in the 7th seed and the Clippers in the 2nd seed with 4 more wins. So I think there's a lot of wiggle room, although the Clippers have 20 losses to the Dallas Mavericks 27 losses, and I don't think the Clippers are going to drop the next 8 games once the season resumes. So looking into the playoffs, I'm just going to project that, to make this argument right, I'm going to project that both the Clippers make it out of the Western Conference and the Milwaukee Bucks make it out of the Eastern Conference. Now, some of you guys may say, what makes you so confident that these things can happen? Well, let's look at some of the team stats, okay? The Milwaukee Bucks currently lead the league in scoring with 118.6 points a game. But then the Clippers are the number 4 scoring team in the NBA with 116.2 points a game. So they're up there. If we're looking at rebounding, rebound is the defensive stat, it's an effort stat. The Milwaukee Bucks lead the league in rebounding with 51.7 rebounds a game. And the Clippers come in at number 3 with 48 rebounds a game, which I think is pretty interesting, because one would have probably assumed that in the Western Conference that the Lakers would have more rebounds than the Clippers because they have more size on their team, but it's not the case. If we look at block leaders, then the Milwaukee Bucks are the number 3 team in block with 6 blocks a game, with the Lakers, which is no surprise, with 6.8 blocks a game. Then if we look at field goal percentage, the Milwaukee Bucks make about 47.7% of their field goals, and the Lakers make 48.5%. And I think Dwight Howard is shooting like 75% from the field, this season. So if we go a little bit deeper and we start to look at these teams' rosters, then if we look at the Milwaukee Bucks, what Giannis Antetokounmpo is doing this season is just astonishing. The dude is averaging 29.6 points a game, 13.7 rebounds, and 5.8 assists, and he's leading his team in points, rebounds, and assists. So that's Giannis for you. That's their MVP. But he's not the only one on the team. They have Chris Middleton, they have Eric Bledsoe, they have Brook Lopez, they have George Hill, who's a veteran point guard. They have Wesley Matthews, they have Dante DiVincenzo. I hope I pronounced his name right. They have Kyle Korver. They have Robin Lopez. So the Clippers the Milwaukee Bucks have a pretty solid roster on their team. But the same thing can be said for the Clippers, because the Clippers are not, they're not playing any games either. Kawhi Leonard is their leading scorer with 26.9 points a game, getting you 7.3 rebounds and 5 assists, and leading the team in steals as well, with 1.8 steals. So he's leading the team in points, rebounds, and steals. Incidentally, if we look at their playoff, let's say, production last season, then if you look at Kawhi averaged 30.5 points a game last season in the playoffs, shot 50% from the field, 38% from the three-point line, 88% from the free throw line, got you 9.1 rebounds and 1.7 steals, and he basically led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and steals last season. But, his counterpart in this case, and Giannis Antetokounmpo last season averaged 25.5 points in the playoffs, shot 50% from the field, 32% from the three-point line, 63% from the free throw line, got you 12.2 rebounds, 1.2 steals, and 2 blocks a game. So Giannis Antetokounmpo put up some pretty solid numbers. If we look at their road to the finals, I think it's simple to say that these two teams have a really good shot at making it to the finals, but the Milwaukee Bucks have an even, let's say, easier road, because they're so much more dominant than the teams in the Eastern Conference, because number one, they have the number one seed. I have no doubt in my mind that they can beat all of those other teams that they would play against in the Eastern Conference. So for me, I think the Milwaukee Bucks have a higher percentage of definitely making it to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Whereas in the Western Conference, it's pretty tough, because the Clippers, they could, either see that, they have teams in there like the Lakers, they have the Houston Rockets, they have the Denver Nuggets, they have the Portland Trailblazers who could possibly make it in. So the Western Conference has a lot of tough, gritty teams that, are usually in the playoffs all the time, that usually have, really good regular season records. But I think that Giannis Antetokounmpo has a bad taste in his mouth from what happened last season in the Eastern Conference Finals. Because what happened? Going into that series, a lot of people picked the Milwaukee Bucks to beat the Toronto Raptors when they met in the playoffs. And after game one, people like Paul Pierce and others were like, this series is over. And after the Milwaukee Bucks won game two, after they won the second game, everybody was just like, this is a wrap. There's no way they're going to come back. But what ended up happening? The Toronto Raptors ended up coming back 4 games straight to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And I remember going into that game 6 after the Milwaukee Bucks lost game 5, and they asked Giannis, they were like, what are your thoughts going into this game? And he's like, I'm pissed off. I'm just pissed off. And I'm heated and this and this and this. And when game 6 started, if you guys go back and look at those highlights, Giannis in the first 2 quarters came out like a madman. He was dunking all over everybody. He was just going off in that the first 2 quarters. But then the Toronto Raptors were able to, pull themselves together and come away with that win. And at the end of that series, a lot of people were saying that Kawhi Leonard exposed Giannis, that he didn't have a jump shot, and he shut him down to the best degree that anybody in the world could do it. So there was this kind of conversation lingering all throughout the NBA. And I think Giannis obviously must have heard that. And if Giannis has the chance to get to the NBA Finals and he looks across the court and it's the LA Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, I think he's going to be salivating to get some payback against Kawhi Leonard. I don't think Kawhi Leonard has that type of, vitriol or type of intensity towards Giannis. I think Kawhi Leonard, there's a reason they call him the Terminator. He just terminates whoever the hell they put in front of him. So I don't think he's going to look across the corner and say, that dude, let me show him what's what. I think Kawhi Leonard just goes out and tries to dominate. I think both of these guys have two different things motivating them. Giannis has never won an NBA title before, so that's something that's probably pushing him. Kawhi Leonard has, but Kawhi Leonard is looking to make history because if he does win this championship, that will give him three championships, which would tie him with LeBron because they both played in the same era. And number two, he would be the only player, one of two players to win a championship with three different organizations. So I think these guys have two different things motivating them, but nevertheless, the two of these guys are still very, very motivated. And I think that if they were to meet in the NBA Finals, I think that it would be absolute fireworks, and I would have a front row seat in my popcorn because I know it's going to be fantastic to see. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you possibly think that we could possibly see a finals rematch between Kawhi Leonard and Giannis Antetokounmpo? And if we did, who do you guys pick to win that championship round if these two teams were to face the Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks? So whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day. Peace.